time for the deep dive. Last couple of weeks we did the NFC West, and now it's on to the AFC East. Nigel Seely tomorrow to talk soccer, and then we'll finish out the AFC East the rest of the week. It'll be fun to talk about the Patriots as well. In some places they're lined at 12.5. The Buffalo Bills, win total 6.5, over 135 last year, 7-9 straight up, 6-10 ATS, 12-4 to the over. How about that? 4-2 start, including wins over Arizona and New England. I know Brady wasn't there in Garoppolo, but despite Roman getting fired after week 2, 6-5 heading into December. They also had that huge Monday night loss in Seattle when they had first and goal to win the game and couldn't cash in, but they were live for the playoffs. A 1-4 stretch to end it. The lone win at Cleveland. Rex Ryan out the door.
I mean, this is a Bills team that was favored in half their games last year, Pauly. 8 times they were chalk. They went 3-5 against the spread in those contests. Just 2-6 straight up in games decided by a touchdown or less. In fact, just 1-5 straight up in games decided by less than a touchdown. So when it came to close games, their failure in Seattle was not the only one. They repeatedly came up a little bit short trying to win the tight ones. They couldn't do it a season ago.
Now, you look at the key stats. 18 takeaways, 12 giveaways, number 2. Plus 6 was 7th in the league. Offense, 5.6 yards per play on offense, right around league average. 5.3 yards per rush. Number 1 in the NFL by far. Number 2 behind Dallas in rushing attempts, so at least they could figure out their strength. 29 rushing touchdowns led the NFL too. 6.9 yards per pass, below average, and 29th in sacks allowed too. Defense, 85.9 QB rating allowed was 11th. 39 sacks was 8th. 4.6 yards per rush allowed was 28th. A lot of changes here, as we mentioned. Rex out the door. McDermott takes over as head coach, the former DC with Carolina. New GM. Remember, Doug Whaley. We talked about this on the show, Teddy. They fired Whaley and the entire scouting squad after the draft.
Yeah, it was a weird situation. Let me go back to the stats for just a minute, because a couple of those really stand out. All right, the Buffalo Bills were a sub-500 team last year, and yet they didn't turn the ball over all year. Only 12 giveaways. That was number 2 in the NFL. I don't think that Buffalo's going to only have 12 giveaways this season. That's a concern right off the bat. I mean, you talk about a team that was number 1 in the NFL in yards per rush. I mean, way ahead of Dallas. You know what I mean? And it says so clearly the NFL is not a run-first league. But all of the stats with Buffalo, all of them, they were decent on defense. You know, decent in terms of the pass pressure, decent in terms of the opponent's QB rating allowed. You know, they weren't particularly good in terms of their own yards per pass, but the stats were not stats of a squad that was non-competitive. And they weren't competitive a season ago. Didn't matter for Sexy Rexy, obviously, but now we're talking about a guy named Sean McDermott, the former Panthers defensive coordinator. And the early reports on McDermott is that, quote, number 1, he's a detail guy. And number 2, he's working on everything up-tempo. Quote, this is from the new GM, Brandon Beane. He's going to want everything regimented out. We're going to be bam, bam. We're not going to be walking around the field. We're going to run from this drill to this drill, from this period to this period. You're going to see that. That's how he's wired and what he's used to. And we've already seen that from the Bills in their first OTAs this offseason. But it was a really weird situation with that, you know, Whaley. And it wasn't just Whaley getting fired. The entire scouting staff got fired one day after the draft. And the reports out of that draft room, Pauly, say, was very awkward, with McDermott making changes to Whaley's draft board. The new GM, as we said, Brandon Beane, but new offensive and new defensive coordinators as well. Pauly, a lot of changes for the Bills in terms of their coaching staff.
Yeah, also something to watch. If they get up to a hot start, they better, because McDermott took out the pool table and the video games. I wonder how that'll play in the locker room, especially if the players don't like them and they get up to a slow start. New OC is Rick Dennison. Didn't exactly wow the NFL as the Broncos OC under Kubiak, and also with the Houston Texans. Leslie Frazier, the defensive coordinator, former Vikings head coach, also then Tampa Bay DC. Last year, the secondary coach in Baltimore, so he's moving in the wrong direction. They are transitioning back to a 4-3 defense. Tyrod Taylor coming back. I would say underrated. 7th in QBR 2015, 9th last year, ahead of Roethlisberger, Rivers, Wilson, Carr, Newton, Flacco, Palmer, and Dalton. Top off-season needs, wide receiver, corner, outside linebacker, DB, and offensive line. They're saying Watkins has been re-energized in the offseason workouts. Can't stay healthy. Been a major disappointment that they traded picks to move up and get him.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with Tyrod Taylor, because this is a guy who's gotten no love. He's gotten no love from the fans. He's gotten no love from the media. He's gotten no love from the Bills organization because he was looking for a long-term deal. And yet, we're talking about a guy who's been top 10 in QBR in each of the last 2 years. And he's done it with a spotty offensive line and a really up-and-down receiving core. So, I mean, you talk about Sammy Watkins being re-energized in off-season workouts. This is a guy that caught 28 passes, 430 yards last year, and Tyrod Taylor still finished number 9 in QBR. I like the move to re-sign Taylor, and certainly if they're going to be better this year, Sammy Watkins is going to have to be a big part of it. But they opened up the checkbook a little bit when it came to free agency, Pauly. A couple of moves that I think will help them.
Micah Hyde comes over from Green Bay to shore up the secondary, replacing Gilmore, who went to New England. Poyer brings safety help from Cleveland as well. And they also signed a fullback, DeMarco, from Atlanta, who's arguably the best blocking fullback over the past 2 seasons. With that #1 rushing attack, it should flourish in Dennison's offense as well. They signed Tolbert because McCoy was miserable in short yardage situations as well. What did they do in the draft, though?
Well, top 3 picks. I mean, you get Tre'Davious White from LSU. After they traded away, remember they had the number 10 pick. They traded down. Nice move. And I think he'll be the one that ends up actually replacing Gilmore. But he's a cornerback who should start right away as a rookie. In the second round, they get Zay Jones from East Carolina. He's another guy who was expected to start as a rookie, an impact receiver. And their second pick in the second round, Deion Dawkins, the guard out of Temple, who is a third guy with the potential to start right away for the Buffalo Bills.
All right, what do you have on the schedule?
Well, this is the thing that I dislike the most about the Bills. There's a lot to like about this team. You know, I like the QB situation. I like the coaching change. They're not starting from scratch. It's not a tear-down, rebuild type situation. And normally you find value with teams like that. You like to bet them over their win total. But from a strength of schedule standpoint, it is a disaster for the Buffalo Bills. Last year, much easier than average based on teams' records. This year, much harder than average based on 2017 win totals. So along with the Miami Dolphins, we're talking about the 2 biggest jumps in strength of schedule between last year and this year. The AFC East faces the NFC South and the AFC West. And the thing about those 2 divisions, no bad teams. 7 of the 8 teams in those 2 divisions are aligned at 8 wins or higher, and San Diego's at 7.5. You know, there's no weaklings. And there are 2 extra games at Cincy and Indy, 2 teams that are both expected to be better than they were a season ago.
So what do you think? Gun to head under?
I don't. You know, I like the roster. I don't like the schedule. Bills are going to be a clear pass for me.
Hey guys, for the full video, go to sbrpicks.com.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.